Good morning. This is XPulse AI Morning Mix. Today is Saturday, April 11th, 2026. We've got a major security and regulation moment around Anthropic, Meta's newest model hitting its apps, and a big funding signal out of India. Orion's here with me, ready to jump in?
Ready, let's do it.
We start with the most consequential one, regulators pulling in the banking sector. What happened?
The Guardian reported on April 10th that the U.S. Treasury convened major bank executives in Washington to discuss potential cyber risks from Anthropic's latest model, Claude Mythos. Reports also say Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell attended. The concern is models that can autonomously discover or exploit software vulnerabilities.
So is this about bank AI defenses or about keeping the model contained?
Both. Banks are mapping exposure, where AI touches code, ops, and incident response, and regulators want readiness if these tools lower the cost of real attacks. And yes, it's also about deployment discipline, limited previews, monitoring, and making sure safety controls aren't just a slide deck. Cyber risk meetings are the new brunch.
On the product side, Meta finally put a new flagship model into the wild. What's the headline?
CNN reported on April 9th that Meta released Muse Spark, the first model from its Superintelligence Labs led by Alexandra Wang. Meta is already integrating it into chat experiences across its apps, and early evals put it competitive on general language tasks but behind rivals on coding benchmarks. Downloads and investor interest reportedly spiked.
What does Meta want Muse Spark to actually do inside the apps?
Productization. Meta's positioning it for in-app experiences, including shopping features, think assisted discovery and conversational commerce, where good enough language performance can move real revenue. Nothing says confidence like shipping to billions.
Now to India, a big funding round that could reshape the regional race. What's being reported?
Whalesbook reported on April 10th that Bangalore-based Sarvam AI is nearing a $300 to $350 million round at roughly a $1.5 billion plus valuation. The report names investors including Bessemer, NVIDIA, and Amazon. If it closes, it's one of India's largest AI rounds, tied to sovereign or foundational AI ambitions.
For folks who don't know Sarvam, what do they actually build?
They're positioned as a foundational AI company, aiming to build and adapt large models for Indian languages and local enterprise and government use cases. So the stack, data, and deployment aren't entirely dependent on foreign providers. The size of this round signals serious willingness to fund that independence.
Policychation is turning into a major battleground for AI rules. What's the scope here?
Multistate reported on April 9th that state lawmakers introduced roughly 134 AI-related education bills across 31 states this session. The bills cover student data privacy, restrictions on classroom use, curriculum requirements, and disclosure rules. Basically, how generative AI is allowed to show up in assignments, teaching, and administration.
What should schools and vendors expect? Tight bans or practical guardrails?
A mix, but the center of gravity is guardrails, privacy protections, transparency about when AI is used, and clearer accountability for educators and vendors. The messy part is inconsistency. Different state rules can turn one product into 50 compliance profiles.
Healthcare policy in California also got a structured look. What did the review highlight?
The California Healthcare Foundation summarized, on April 9th, a Duke Margolis review of 26 California health AI bills plus related efforts. The themes were patient protections, transparency, and finding paths that preserve innovation, so clinical safety, privacy, and real-world adoption can coexist, rather than forcing an all-or-nothing approach.
How might this change what hospitals buy or deploy?
Expect more pressure for traceability, what data trained the system, how it's validated, and where humans stay in the loop, especially for diagnostic or triage use. Procurement may start to look more like medical device diligence, even for software-like AI tools.
Let's hit a few more moves that matter, starting with the hardware economics behind all of this. What are you watching?
Financial Content wrote on April 10th that Broadcom has landed sizable custom silicon deals with Google and Anthropic, signaling more shift toward application-specific integrated circuits for inference and some training workloads. And International Business Times reported on April 9th that Air Test Systems jumped on AI-driven bookings tied to wafer-level burn-in and silicon photonics testing.
Back to the Anthropic cyber thread, are we seeing industry coordination, not just regulator concern?
Yes. American Banker reported on April 10th that Anthropic formed Project Glasswing, a coalition that reportedly includes AWS, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Palo Alto Networks, and the Linux Foundation. The goal is coordinated patching and deployment safeguards before broader Mythos-class rollouts.
And in company news, any quick deals or funding worth noting?
Cornell Chronicle reported on April 9th that Qualcomm acquired Exostellar, a Cornell spinout for AI infrastructure management software. Tech startups reported on April 9th that Haast raised $12 million for automating enterprise compliance around AI-generated content. And Wired reported on April 9th that Black Forest Labs raised at a $3.25 billion valuation, with image generation deals for Adobe and Canva.
That's Xpulse AI Morning Mix for Saturday, April 11th, 2026. If this helped, share it with a teammate who lives in tabs. See you next time.